So, my sister-in-law is a vegan, but does that give her the right to absolutely ruin my wedding, all because I want to serve a turkey on my wedding day? Oh, big deal, sue me. I even went out of my way to get her all the food she needed, vegan food, so she didn't feel left out. But you guys will not believe what she did. Hello. I genuinely thought I wasn't wrong in this situation, but I've been getting some very problematic and guilt-tripping messages from my to-be sister-in-law all throughout the week. So, I thought I should post here and get an unbiased opinion, although I'll say that all the opinions in my life regarding this situation have been biased towards me after what my sister-in-law pulled. Okay, let me start from the beginning. I'm 25, I'm female. I've been with my partner for the last 9 years. We have your typical high school sweetheart that stuck together through thick and thin type of love story. Ryan and I go way back to when we were kids. I think we've known each other our entire lives, and we lived on the same block in the neighborhood, and I've always played with his group of friends because the girls in the neighborhood hated being around me. I was always raggedy, dirty, and my family could not afford clothing, so I got hand-me-downs that were already torn and worn out. They often did not pay the electricity and water bills, so I would go a week or two without even a shower. The boys were young, chaotic. They were always a mess and never paid attention or cared about how I looked or smelled. When Ryan's parents noticed the state I was in, they began inviting me home to eat with them and eventually helped me clean up when my parents left me to fend for myself for days on end. Ryan never took a liking to me when we were younger. He always hated the fact that there was a girl in his house after playing, and his friends would often tease him about it. As we grew older, I learned to look after myself better, and although I would occasionally turn to his parents for help when my parents weren't maintaining the home, I drifted away from him and his friend group. We had our own separate lives, and although I always remained close to his parents, it wasn't until high school that we found ourselves part of the same friend group once again. We never spoke much directly initially, but our friendship soon began to take form. It began with him teasing me about our childhood and acknowledging the fact that I was still very close to his parents. I admitted that they've become more like parents to me than my own, and he invited me to spend more time with their family as a whole instead of avoiding him and his sister whenever I went over. And that's how it all began. Within a year, we made it official. It was an easy relationship. My parents didn't care. His parents already loved me. His sister and I spent more time together, and she began to see me as an older sibling herself. Ryan and I had similar interests and similar perspectives on relationship. Everything came natural with us. And we were so in sync that we were rarely any disagreements between the two of us. Things have been the same ever since. Our relationship flows smoothly and we agree on most things. And even though we were briefly long distance while Ryan was away for college, we made it work. Now, he's taken over his dad's business, and with the help of some investments from their end, I've opened up my store in the town. Things are going smoothly for us, and we've just saved up enough money to purchase our own little home. So I wasn't surprised at the timing, but I definitely was caught off guard when Ryan decided to propose. Everyone was super happy for us. My sister-in-law, Sarah, was head over heels at the prospect of being my maid of honor, and almost immediately dove into her own form of wedding planning. My relationship with Sarah has also consistently been the same since Ryan and I got together. We're close, like siblings, in the best possible way. However, things have been a little strained in the house ever since Sarah graduated and moved back in, and our relationship has been a little disconnected and distant. I can't hold her to the same regard that I used to with the new crap in her personality. After her time abroad, Sarah came back a totally different person, which is to be expected. However, she is now what I would, in not-so-gentle terms, refer to as a snowflake. She shifted to veganism and has been hyper-vigilant about things like secularism, misogyny, and more, which in all honesty would be fine. I mean, it's her life and these are her choices. However, she isn't just here like, hey, police brutality is increasing against African Americans, maybe we should organize a protest. No, she's not like that. She turned into someone who will police everybody around her. I mean, super vocal about her views and expect all of us to fit our perspectives to her requirements. But won't actually do anything about the issue she's even vocal about. Just the other day, she called her mother a Karen for not tipping the garbage guy. It wasn't even their payday. I mean, seriously, who tips the garbage collection guy? This brings me to the issue at hand. A few days ago, we had our engagement party. I'm so grateful to be my in-laws, who organized it as a surprise and did all of the planning. Other than when they took us to get dressed and ready, neither Ryan or I even saw it coming. They decorated their huge backyard beautifully, and there was a lovely, delicious-looking buffet. All of our close friends and family, aside from my parents, who disowned several years ago, were all there. It was a lovely event, and we danced, we sang together, and reminisced about the good old days during which Ryan hated me, or we were just friends and never saw this coming. The problem arose when it was time to eat. There was an extremely scrumptious-looking buffet spread out, and everybody could hardly wait to dig in. It looked like a feast fit for a king. I don't think I've ever seen that much food before in my life. Well, maybe at Golden Corral. Ryan and I served ourselves and sat down at the table with a few buddies. As we were about to chow down, we heard a shriek. We turned to see Sarah, my sister-in-law, at the buffet with her eyes filled with horror and an empty plate in her hands. She began wailing at the top of her lungs, starting with, "How could you?" and ranging from me being a monster to me being ungrateful and evil. Her whole point was, how dare I organize a buffet filled with so many different meats when I know how she feels about that? Well, I was shocked because I could not move from my seat as I just stared at her. Ryan squeezed my arm before moving to Sarah along with his mother. Both tried to explain to her that I did not have anything to do with the food at the party, and it was just a surprise. And there were separate vegan foods stored for her in the kitchen, but she was having none of it. All the guests had gone silent, and all eyes were either on the commotion that she was causing or on me for a reaction. I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes, but I held them back. I felt so humiliated to be screamed at for nothing in front of so many people on a day that was supposed to be special to me. I looked down at the plate in front of me to keep the tears from falling. I knew she was super pushy with us about her lifestyle, but I never imagined her pulling a stunt like this. Ryan took one look at me and realized what was going on. He grabbed Sarah's arms, whispered something in her ear that effectively made her shut her mouth and stop the waterworks, and dragged her into the house. When he came back, he apologized to the guest, poked a little fun at his sister, and tried to bring the cheerful mood back, but the air remained tense and awkward. He sat beside me, looked at my untouched plate, and just shook his head. He told me she overreacted and I had not done anything wrong. I told him I'm well aware, but the situation was very embarrassing regardless. He understood, and even though the party could have gone on longer and we could have had so much fun that day, people began to quietly make the exit after the meal. Hardly anybody was left by the time dessert was brought out. That night, the five of us sat in the living room as my mother-in-law Lillian lectured Sarah. "How dare you ruin a special occasion with your childish tantrums? How dare you humiliate your brother and OP like that?" I zoned out through the lecture, but Sarah's defiant expression remained unchanged. She continued to blame me until Lillian slapped her across the face and told her that she was being a spoiled brat, and she needs to stop bringing her high, mighty, pointless mindset into the family. She made it clear that while we did not care about what Sarah ate and promoted, we had no obligation to follow her and her stupid trends, and that I had nothing to do with the party. Sarah needed to get a reality check and stop pointedly blaming me and ruining her relationship with me. Sarah insisted on there being only vegan food at the wedding, and I began to argue that it's too expensive and pointless because none of the guests were even vegan. Sarah then threatened to drop out of the wedding party altogether if we didn't have the vegan buffet. At this point, I'm not even sure if I want Sarah in my wedding party. Who knows what other stunts she might pull? Much to our surprise, Lillian told Sarah that if she wanted vegan food at the wedding, it would be there, but that she had better be prepared to make up for everything that she has done today. Ryan began to protest, but Lillian brushed him off and told him not to worry about it, that we would get the food we planned for at our wedding. And I don't know what Lillian's up to, but honestly at this point I'm too tired to even care. Sarah and I haven't spoken since the wedding, and after the way she humiliated me, I have no intentions of reaching out to her, which I can see that she expects me to do. The only way I see myself speaking to her is if I get an apology without anyone pushing her for it. Ryan wants to drop her from our wedding party. He's beyond livid, but I'm not sure what to do. While Sarah has not apologized, I keep receiving aggressive text messages from her about how animals are butchered, the inhumane conditions they're kept in, and how meat is ultimately the worst for our health. She also sends me these cryptic messages like, "I hope you know what's best to do, and if you listen to me, you'll get what's yours if there's no vegan buffet." But I've just been ignoring it. Ryan's told her multiple times to stop, and as of today has taken her off of his family's phone plan, leaving her with no way to send me those harassing text messages. So my question here is this. Did I do something wrong? Should I reach out to Sarah, and should we keep a vegan buffet at the wedding? Even if we weren't planning on vegan buffets, we would have had a vegan meal and snacks prepared specifically for Sarah. But apparently that's not enough, and I somehow feel like I'm in the wrong, even though I haven't done anything. And the vibe at the house has generally been extremely tense and unwelcoming. I'm not sure where to go from here. A vegan buffet would be an extremely expensive and unwelcome change, and honestly, I don't even know if I want to fix things with Sarah anymore. Part of me wants to listen to Ryan and drop her from the wedding party and leave our relationship strained as it is. Update number 1, 3 months since my last post. Hey guys, our wedding's going to be in a week from now. Everything has come together beautifully. I see and hear a lot of stories where wedding planning creates conflict between the bride and the groom or their families. I was terrified of the same happening with me, but I'm very grateful to let you all know that this was not the case at all. We agreed on close to everything. My mother-in-law Lillian came wedding dress shopping with me alongside my best friend and my sister. Even though my parents aren't involved in my wedding and won't witness it or get to walk me down the aisle, I'm so grateful to have such a strong support system and so many people I can truly call family. I'm not getting to lie though. Back when I was younger and more naive, I always thought my parents would get their crap together by the time I was getting married, and my father would walk me down the aisle. It's a bitter realization to know that my 13-year-old self has been so wrong. Instead, my older brother, who was also a part of the friend group Ryan and I were in when we were young, will be walking me. When we met with our vendors and made our selection, it was just me, Ryan, and Lillian. Everything went smoothly, and our choice for the flowers and decor were unanimous. We're having a beautiful lavender and silver-themed wedding. When we met with the caterers, we chose a delicious buffet of some of our favorite foods. I was hesitant to involve too much meat, but Lillian said that it's my wedding and hence up to me to decide on what food I want, regardless of what my sister-in-law Sarah may say or do. Ryan even insisted on having a whole roast turkey at the head of the buffet that he'll carve up before the meal begins. I think he did that mostly out of spite because we chose an array of sides like rice, roasted potatoes, mashed potatoes, beans, more. We also had other options like gravies, salad, pastas, just in case turkey wasn't the choice of the hour for some of our guests. After we confirmed our menu and pricing, Lillian asked us to wait outside while she spoke to the caterer and some more. It took her about half an hour, and I saw her put down an additional deposit for the food. On top of what Ryan and I had already paid, I was curious, but she promised me that what she had planned would not affect any of our choices or decisions, and I should not worry about it. I trust her, so we moved along. Everything else went on fine. My dress is ready and all is well, and I'm staying in an apartment I've rented in the city out of respect for tradition, about 10 minutes away from Ryan's place. Lillian and Ryan still somehow spent most of the time here, and Ryan somehow manages to convince me to let him stay almost every other night, even though the whole point of renting the apartment was so we would not spend a night together, again, until after the wedding. This week, however, I'm going to place that rule on lockdown and absolutely refuse. I hate saying no to him, though, so I hope I have it in me. Now on to what I've actually been waiting for. My sister-in-law. After she was taken off the phone plan, she begged, pleaded, and cried to be let back on. Ryan refused to do so, telling her she needs to learn how to behave in public settings and that she had completely humiliated me at the engagement party when I didn't even have anything to do with it. He told her that her opinions were her own, and while we respected that she did not need to force them upon us, I think she heard him loud and clear, but also continued to throw her tantrum. She apologized to him, hoping that he would let her back on the plan, but he stood firm on his decision. Ultimately, Sarah was forced to get a job to cover her own expenses. Now that her brother had dropped out of helping her, he wasn't just covering her phone plan. He was also paying off her phone and laptop, as well as covering all groceries and giving her spending money. Now that she's been cut off, she spent a month or two dipping into her inheritance before she took up a low-paying clerical job at a store downtown. That's just about covering all her expenses. Of course, she still lives rent-free, so there's that. In spite of everything that Ryan said to her, Sarah has still not reached out to apologize to me. We've not spoken since the engagement party, and I honestly think that there's nothing left to salvage of my relationship with her, which sucks, because it was genuinely a lovely sibling-type bond. When I was in the house, she would barely even look at me and ignore me to the fullest of her capabilities. The situation overall is downright idiotic, but if this is the hill she wants to die on, so be it. I never have any, and I never will tolerate disrespect from anybody and then let them back into my life without them taking accountability for their actions. On the bright side, I've had the courage to make a decision and requested that Ryan inform Sarah that she's been dropped from the wedding party. My best friend's now going to be my maid of honor, which is what I wanted from the beginning, although Sarah assumed the role without invitation and I didn't really know how to say no. Our wedding party is now smaller, which ended up being a good decision because it allowed more funding to spend on music. We've upgraded from a DJ to a really nice local band that was kind enough to offer us a major discount. That's all for now, guys. I feel like my mother-in-law has something up her sleeve with regards to teaching Sarah a lesson. So we'll have to wait and see, and I just hope the wedding goes without a hitch. And Sarah does not throw another tantrum when she sees the turkey that Ryan ordered. The ordeal of the engagement party was embarrassing enough, and if I have to go through the same thing on my wedding day, I don't know, I might just throw in the towel and sucker punch her. There's only so much that I can be patient with and simply tolerate. However, at the end of the day, my mother-in-law promised me that she would keep Sarah under control and squash any attempts at an outburst, so I guess we'll see. I'll update you guys soon enough. Update number 2. Final update of the story. Hey guys, I'm currently typing this from a sunbed in the Caribbeans. I'm tanned, well-fed, and loved, and we're on a 1-week honeymoon, and 2 weeks out from a picture-perfect wedding. The wedding went out seamlessly, and everything came together beautifully, from the decor, flowers, and venue, to the music even, and the ambience of the people. It was such a harmonious event, I could not even ask for anything more. I'm lucky enough to have a support system of people who made sure that no issues arose at the wedding, whatever reached me. I sang, I danced, and I even laughed the night away with the people closest to me. Me and Ryan and I celebrated our love in the best way possible. It was only after the wedding that I was informed of all the stunts that Sarah had tried to pull that day. Thankfully, she was caught and stopped every single time and handled by her parents. I'm still not sure why she targeted me for everything when I barely had anything to do with the food of both the engagement party and the wedding, but somehow I was the subject of all her frustration. I don't know, apparently she was caught outside the bridal suites where me and my wedding party were to get dressed early on in the wedding day, and with a can of red spray paint in her hand. She was caught by her mother, who's been watching her like a hawk and refused to admit that she was doing something wrong there. But they're sure that she planned to vandalize my dress. She also apparently had a speech prepared and tried to stand up in the church when the priest asked if anybody had objections. But Lillian, my mother-in-law, pinched her thigh and forced her to stay seated with a few angry whispered threats. I laughed at this one. Just imagine standing up to object in a Catholic church and giving a speech about how the meat industry is bad. At this point, I think most of the family has noticed the erratic behavior and think that she's a Looney Tune. According to my father-in-law, She intercepted the guys delivering our flower arrangements and tries to mess with my bridal bouquet. She knows I'm heavily allergic to lilies. I have such a drastic reaction that I usually end up in the hospital. He chided her with a rap on the knuckles and dragged her away. I don't understand why she was so determined to sabotage the wedding and stop it from happening. She's been okay with my relationship to her brother for the last 9 years, almost a decade. I mean, what's changed now? It's not like I'm out here forcing him to eat meat. He's always a non-vegetarian, and so is their entire family. So, I have no idea what she's even trying to do. It almost feels like the meat talk is a cover, and she had some other ulterior motives to try to stop our wedding. Anyways, after all this, when the buffet was unveiled at the wedding, I think she was ready to begin the waterworks and scream again. But another buffet was unveiled alongside it, and somehow looking equally scrumptious, fit for a king, and entirely vegan. Ryan and I were shocked and confused, but then I remembered Lillian putting down an additional deposit. Sarah was speechless and was stopped in her tracks. I don't think she quite knew what to say, and I overheard Lillian telling her that she got the vegan food she wanted so badly, so she had better keep her mouth shut for the rest of the party. She tried to still create a scene about the turkey, but one look from Ryan and it silenced her completely. He told her the buffet was his choice and his money, and for the first time in over 4 months, she looked at me and did not know what to say. I ignored her and just continued to enjoy myself to the fullest. The kicker came at the end, when everybody had left and only us, close friends and family, were unwinding before heading home. Lillian casually turned to Sarah and said, "I hope you know that since we ordered an entire vegan buffet off your demands and nobody ate from it other than you, it won't be going from my pocket, and you're going to have to pay for it." Everyone turned to look at Sarah, who was absolutely flabbergasted. She stuttered through a few words before asking how much it cost. When Lillian revealed the price, she was left gaping at her, and "I'm not paying that," she yelled. "I can't afford that." Lily was shaking her head. "You're going to have to figure it out. I'm not vegan. I didn't eat it. Why the hell should I pay for it? The only reason we made sure it was here was because of your little tantrums. If you can't figure out a payment plan to pay me back, it's coming out of your inheritance, and that's that." Sarah tried to argue and insist that Lillian could not do that, but seeing as the inheritance was from Lillian, she very much could. I knew from the time that I spent with Sarah that she was relying on her inheritance to help her pay for her first home, and she wanted to do that within the next year. I knew the price of the buffet would set her back too much for her to be able to follow through with her plan. She starts crying loudly before Ryan looked at her with raging eyes. She left the party in tears, and Lillian shrugged with no remorse. She got what was coming with the behavior that she's been displaying and the way she's been treating OP over the last few months. So I guess that's that. When we got back home, Ryan and I will continue to stay in the apartment that I rented. I don't really want to move back into the house after everything happened with Sarah. And at this point, I think he's outgrown it too, and we'll start looking at homes soon after we're back and hope to put a down payment on one of the houses within the month. I know my relationship with Sarah has been sacrificed in this whole ordeal, but I think I'm okay with it after everything that she pulled. I hope the large cut in her inheritance serves as a lesson for her to realize that the world does not revolve around her and her opinions. Well, that's it, okay, for people to disagree with her, and she can't force her lifestyle upon everybody around her. Guys, I just want to thank everybody for the advice and sticking around for this little hazardous part of my life that I chose to share on the internet. I understand that everyone has different views and all views deserve an equal respect, but guys, please don't force your views on someone who has a different perspective on life. Thanks again. I don't think I'll be posting after this one. Finally, a refreshing ending where the mother-in-law actually stands up for OP. We saw it today when the vegan, she had to pay for the entire buffet, for the vegan side at least, and I think that was a genius type of revenge. And when she said, "Well, I don't have the money to pay for it," mother-in-law comes out of nowhere and says, "Well, I guess it'll come out of your inheritance." I want to know what you guys thought about today's story. Do you think they were too harsh, or do you think OP was 100% justified to say, "You know what, you're going to pay for that, not me"? So let me talk about it in the comment section down below. Drop your thoughts, your opinions, and let's talk about it. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every day. So if you want to be a part of these day-to-day animated stories, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.